I welcome all the participants here. Now, to begin with the webinar, let me give a brief layout. First, I will present a perspective which includes the type of energies and why electrical energy is so important to us. Then I will talk about the growth of power system network in India since independence in 1947. I will also present some major challenges faced by Indian power industries here. In then After that, I will present the basic structure of power system and its major components like generation, transmission, and distribution. To give a flavor of power system analysis, the fundamental principle that is the representation of power system network using single line diagram and per unit system will be discussed. A little more technical discussion with the help of an example will be presented by me here. Then I will present the different areas of power system studies and analysis. I will list out a number of popular and mostly used simulation softwares for the power system studies. I will also present a few open source softwares available to us. In the last, but obviously the most important discussion about this course, the scope and the job opportunities will be presented. I will give a brief of work and responsibilities of a power engineer and list out a number of government and private industries requiring the skilled power system engineers. So now to begin with, um, as we all know, electrical energy has become one of the most popular form of energy. It can be generated centrally in bulk, transmitted economically over a long distance, converted to any other form of energy, or being utilized with a very high efficiency. It can be adapted easily and efficiently to both domestic and industrial applications. Because of all these reasons, electrical energy is the most coveted form of energy. An that is an essential ingredient for all-round development of any country. Consumption of electrical energy is also considered as one of the reliable indicator of any country's development. The per capita consumption of electrical energy in India was 1,208 units in the financial year of 2019 and 20. I will present this later in the later slides how we are lagging behind many other countries around the globe. First, I will just give a brief of type of energies. Classically, the energy sources are divided into broad two categories. As we all know, the conventional or the non-renewable energy sources like coal, petroleum, gas, or nuclear energy. They are present in a limited quantity, and if exhausted completely, they can take over a million years to be formed again. While on the other hand, the non-conventional sources like renewable energy sources like solar, wind, or biomass, they are abundant in nature and they cannot be exhausted completely and are environment friendly also. So conventionally, the electrical energy was obtained by or is obtained by burning fossil fuels due to but now due to increased concern about the environmental pollution and depleting sources of fossil fuels, there is there has been a significant push to utilize renewable energy sources also. Regarding the power system, the electrical power system network is a network of electrical components deployed to supply, transfer, and use electrical power. An example of electrical power system is the electrical grid that provides power to homes and industry within an extended area. It is the largest structure that humans had ever built. So these are the some giving a brief perspective or a brief history of the power system. Now moving on to give a idea of Indian power system industry. India is fairly rich in natural resources like coal and lignite. India has immense water power resources and receive quite large amount of wind and solar energy throughout the year. Since independence, the country has made tremendous progress in the development of electrical energy, and today it has the largest system among the developing countries. In 1947, as you can see from the graph, uh, when India attained independence, the installed capacity was as low as around 1362 megawatt, where it has grown to 370 gigawatt today. So if we talk about the utility wise distribution within the installed capacity, the coal based power plants contributes to 56% from this pie chart we can see, and the share of total non-conventional based power plant is more than 65%. Rest 35% of installed capacity is of large, small or micro scale hydro plants, solar and wind based power plants. Due to the international push for reducing carbon footprint and increasing awareness among people and government, the scope of renewable energy based power plants are increasing day by day. So, moving on, the per capita consumption. If now we are talking about the per capita consumption, as I have already told, it is one of the most reliable and popular indicator of any country's development. India stands at a relatively very low level among many developing and developed countries. We can see clearly from the graph. The graph shows the per capita consumption of various countries for the year 2016 and 17. The per capita consumption is calculated as the gross energy availability divided by the mid-year population of that particular country. The data has been taken from CEA, that is the Central Electricity Authority report on the growth of electricity sector in India from 1947 to 2020. It can be seen that per capita consumption in India is much lower, around around one third than the average of the world. So being being an Indian, the figures may be disheartening for us, but at the same time, being a power system engineer, I look at it as a big opportunity for many startup and companies involved in energy production to end user consumptions. So moving on, as we are talking about the involvement of private sector, in private sector, the report published by again the same CEA, Central Electricity Authority, clearly shows that the contribution of private sector in power generation capacity has significantly increased in the last decade. The change in private sector installed capacity during year 2001 to 2020 is shown here, where the green line represents the state government owned power plants, blue line shows the central government owned private power plant, and violet line shows the privately owned power plants, which is now comparable. We can easily see here the privately owned power plants are now comparable to state and central government owned power plants combined. So now moving on, challenges. Okay, so now as we have already discussed that the importance and the vast size of Indian power system, so it also associated with many challenges. The electricity requirement of India has grown tremendously, and the demand has been running ahead of the supply. The AT&C, it's the short form of Aggregated Technical and Commercial Losses in 19 and in year 2019 and 20 on a national basis was 20.6 20.6 percentage. It consists of both technical losses like losses in the form of heat due to current flow in transmission line and transformers, and it also includes the non-technical or commercial losses due to energy thefts or energy meters not being read correctly. So it is possible to achieve a considerable saving by reducing this loss to at, at least a 15%. Right now it is very much higher compared to the rest of world also. It is around 20 or 21 percentage, but we have a target to reduce it to up to 15%. Now, again, the complete electrification and reducing the per unit cost of energy are the few administrative measures that the central government should take to improve the per capita consumption of India. We know that the country's coal resources are located mainly in eastern and southern regions. Also, that is the main reason that's why the thermal power stations are built in the southern and eastern regions to have a saving on the transportation cost of the fuel. And and same as the major portion of India's hydro power capacity is present in the northeastern region, and the same reason the nuclear power plants have to be built at a very remote locations from the densely populated cities to reduce the risk of the radioactive leakages. While these are the factors why we are concentrating the generators on a particular regions, while on the other hand, the northern regions of India always has a high demand of electricity due to its agriculture requirement or the large populations. Therefore, the transmission system in India connecting different regions are always congested, and a full scale expansion of transmission system is an immediate need. This is again a very big challenge for Indian power system. And now moving on, as I'm sure that all of us has experienced the biggest power blackout in Indian history that happened in July 30 and 31 in the year of 2012. The main reason behind this was the high demand in the northern region and the failure of load management and planning. After this incident, now the power grid monitors all the line very carefully, and any outage or maintenance are scheduled with proper consideration of load and supply. So these are the some major challenges and a brief uh, layout of Indian power system. So now moving on to power system structure. Till now, we have discussed the Indian power system, its size, achievements, and challenges. Now let's go to some deep in technicalist aspect of the power system. Here, the structure of power system is shown. Typically, the power system has three main parts: generation, transmission, and distribution. The generating stations is shown in red color. It can be it can be any large or small power plant of any type, like thermal, hydro, nuclear, or the new renewable based power plants also. From generating stations, the electrical energy transmits through transmission system at a very high voltage of 400 kV or 765 kV. At this stage, there might be some load, mostly heavy industries like steel plants. And after the transmission line, the electrical energy goes to distribution system via step down transformer. Here, different types of load like industrial, commercial, or residential loads receives the power at different voltage level. So these are the main components of power system. As I have already told, the generation, transmission, and distribution. But apart from that, in addition to generation and transmission, the other devices are also required for satisfactory operation and protection of a power system. They include instrument transformer, circuit breakers, relay, fuses, and lightning arresters. Then there are control centers equipped with online computers performing all the coordinations, optimal operations, like load management and economic dispatch, and they do all these things through remote acquisition system. So these are some major components of electrical power system network. So as we have discussed the different components, the main component, as I've already told, the generation, transmission, and distribution. So moving one by one, the generation part of the power system network. The generation can be based on conventional power plants or renewable energy based power plants. In the conventional, again, they can be coal or nuclear based or petroleum or diesel based power plants. And same as in the renewable energy based power plants, the hydroelectric, wind or solar PV plants, they come. So just to give a brief of how the power plant and how the energy conversion process takes place in a thermal power plant. The source of energy in a thermal power plant is coal or gas or petroleum. The chemical energy stored in coal, oil, or gas is uh, transformed into electrical energy. The heat released in the first process, the heat is released by the combustion of the coal, and this heat produces the steam in the boiler at a high pressure and temperature, which, when passed through the steam turbine, gives off some of its internal energy as the mechanical energy. The steam turbine acts as a prime mover and drives the electrical generator or alternator. The simple schematic diagram of the thermal power plant is shown here. The efficiency of the overall conversion process is very poor, and the maximum value is about 40% because of its very high heat losses in various conversion process. Um, so again, now the nuclear power plants, we know that we are in the process of completely replacing the thermal power plants with some new or renewable sources based power plants. But the immediate practical alternative source for a large scale power plant generation is the nuclear power plants. In a nuclear power plant, the main part is reactor. We can see it. We can see in the block diagram presented here. In the reactor, nuclear fission reaction of uranium 235 takes place. The moderator, control rods, and the coolants are the important parts of this reactor. The heat exchanger or the steam generator, mm, the high temperature or pressure it generates the high temperature and pressure steam, which runs the coupled turbine and generator system. Again, the same concept is here. The nuclear energy is first converted into the mechanical energy, and then mechanical energy is converted into the electrical energy with the help of turbine generator system. So this is the process of how the nuclear power plants work. Our ultimate goal is to generate our electrical power from other form of the energy. Moving on to the renewable energy based power plants, the hydroelectric power plants. Again, it converts the potential energy present in the water stored in large reservoirs or dams. First, it is converted into the kinetic energy via flow through penstock or long tubes, and then that kinetic energy is converted into the electrical energy, again using the same concept, utilizing the turbine generator combination. It is obviously the most oldest and cheapest form of energy conversion. But the problem involves here, it involves high capital cost and long gestation period. But once it's complete and it's start operational, the operational cost or the its operating cost is very low or approximately zero compared to other conventional power plants like thermal or nuclear power plants. um, and it also has some other applications like providing water for the irrigation purposes and prevention from seasonal floods. So these are the benefits of hydroelectric power plants. Moving on to wind farm. um, Wind farm is a non-renewable source. It is inexhaustible and non-polluting, but it is highly intermittent and unpredictable. So we can highly intermittent means the power generated from a wind turbine, it always not remain on a fixed value. It largely depend upon the input wind speed, and wind speed varies a lot from like 3 meter per second to 30 meter per second. It can vary within a minute also. So same way the electric power generated also varies a lot. So it is highly intermittent, and we cannot simply rely on a wind farm only. we have to have some base load power plants like thermal power plants or nuclear power plants, which can assure a minimum certain level of energy all the time throughout the year. Again, here in the wind farm, it converts the the kinetic energy of the wind into the electrical energy using the same concept of turbine generator system. Solar energy. No, solar energy is slightly different from other form of the renewable energy. Um, Actually, the two main conversion process here involves the direct conversion of electrical energy by photovoltaic panels. We can see from the left image, there are the photovoltaic panels you would have seen in your neighborhood also, or in the offices or in your institutes. In that solar panels are placed, and the solar radiation falls on the solar panel, and through some solar the conversion process involves here. The solar panels constructed of a silicon based semiconductor material, and it directly converts the solar radiation into the electrical energy. Definitely it is in a very small amount, but the series and parallel combinations of these solar panels produces a considerably large amount of power. And then this power is in DC form. This power can be converted into the AC through via inverter, and there is a monitoring system, and then there is a AC control panel, and that this high or huge amount of power can be transmitted to the far end load, or it can be utilized locally also. But if we have a large power plant, so to transmit it to a remote location, we use the transmission network. In the second type of energy conversion, we use the heat energy of the solar radiation. We run the boiler and the generator using the radiation reflector and concentrators. These reflector and concentrators concentrate the whole solar energy in a small area, and that small and the water tubes are flowing through that small area, which uh, which then produces a high temperature and high pressure steams, and that steam is used to run the turbine and coupled generator, and via this the electrical energy can be produced. So these are the two major type of energy production using solar radiation. And again, solar radiation, like the wind radiation, it is intermittent. We can easily say, because in the daytime the solar radiation can be high, but in the evening and the morning time solar radiations are very less, and in the night time we cannot have the solar radiation, but energy consumption or the energy demand is there in the night time also. So we cannot rely again on the solar based power plants also. So, and it depends upon weather conditions also. If it is cloudy outside, then again the power generation would be very less from the solar power plants. So these are the challenges with the solar type of renewable energy based power plants also. So I have given a brief of all the generating power plants. Now moving on the second part, the transmission system. We all know that the transmission system, it is a medium to transmit the electrical power from generating stations to load. It is made up of conductors with different configurations for different voltage levels and distances. The most usual voltage levels of transmission network in India are 765 kilovolts or 400 kilovolts. These are considered as a high voltage transmission system. And then there is 220 kilovolts or 130 kilovolts or 110 kilovolts. These are considered as medium transmission network. And again, the much lower values of the voltage level are considered as the short transmission network. So these classification I have explained further. These are the three classification of the transmission system: long, medium, short. The long transmission line, which is having a line length of more than 240 kilometers, it has the voltage level of more than 132 kilovolts. All the four parameters like resistance, inductance, capacitance, and the leakage conductance are considered while modeling. So while doing any type of analysis or the calculation, we include all these four major parameters of a transmission line while doing a power system analysis. In the case of long transmission system, it's a simple circuit diagram is shown in the bottom. In the medium type of transmission system, the line length is around 80 kilometers to 240 kilometers. Voltage level is of around 33 kilovolts to 130 kilovolts. And the capacitance, in this case, the capacitance of the line are considered to be lumped at one point. There are two type of representation. There is one pi model and there is another t model. The pi model is shown here. You can see the capacitance are shown at two different end of the transmission line with c by 2 capacitance, and the inductance and resistances are shown in their actual amount. Same as in the short medium line. If a sorry, short transmission line, if the length of the transmission line is less than 80 kilometer, then we call it as a short transmission line. The voltage level less than 33 kV, the effect of capacitance is ignored here, and it is represented by the resistances and inductances only. So this is all about the transmission system. Now moving on to the third component, third main part of the power system, the distribution system. The first electrical distribution system was developed by Thomas Edison. It was an underground direct current system. It was they have generated a power through DC generator and then um, transmitted the electrical power via underground cables to a few like a few hundreds of houses, and that is mainly for lightning purpose only, not any other motor load or anything else. And it was around in 1890 something around in that year. And distribution system, so again it is a essential part of the electrical power system which connects the end user of the energy to the main grid lines carrying the bulk power. The distribution system usually employs equipment such as transformers, circuit breakers, protective devices, and most of the time the distribution system are having the radial connections of different load and feeder lines. So this is the brief of a distribution system. That is the main third part of the power system network. Now moving on to some deep technical in the power system analysis. um, in the power system analysis, if you talk about the power system analysis, the basic or the fundamental principle is how we represent the power system. So there is as we know that power system are extremely complicated three-phase network, and it is so complex that the complete diagram showing all the connections with three phases are impractical. The single line diagram is the representation of the main connection and power system components using the simple symbols along with their data. In this uh, in the single line diagram, the load is assumed to be passive, and it is represented by the resistive or inductive reactances in the series. The neutral earthing impedance does not appear in the diagram, and the complete system is assumed to be in balanced condition. For practical for practical practicing electrical engineers and researchers, interpretation of single line diagram is equally important for any type of power system analysis or power system studies, and it requires a skill also. And this at the same time, in the bottom you can see a simple power system network I have shown here. There is a In the left side there is a generating unit, then there are some protective circuit breakers or relay, then there is a bus, then there is a step up transformer, then there is a transmission line. Again it is a step down. The power is a step down via step down transformer, and then it is feeded, the electrical power is feeded to the motor. though all the connections are in three phase, there are neutral connections also, but we have not represented it for the sake of simplicity. So this representation is known as single line diagram representation of the power system network.